What's up everybody, hope you are up to a wonderful day. In this video series we're gonna build a portfolio website using HTML, CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. So let's have a look at what we are gonna build. So to view this in your browser you can visit portfolio-template.surge.asset, surge.asset. So we've got a navbar here with some links, and then a headline, some text, and a CTA. And next up we've got this My Work section. And a client section, an About Me section, and a Get in Touch, like the contact section. And finally a footer with some social links and some copyright info. So let's get into it. So I've created a folder on my desktop called Portfolio Template, and inside of it I have images that we are gonna use for the website. So I'll add a link in the video description from where you can download the starter files. So let's open this folder up in VS Code. So I'm gonna be using Visual Studio Code as my editor. You're free to use whatever editor or IDE you like. So I already have it open. You can use file open folder and then open it. So I already have it open. So first up I'm gonna create a index.html file, index.html, and I'm gonna place it inside the root of the portfolio template folder. And I'm gonna use Amit to create the basic document structure. So I'll type exclamation mark and then hit tab, and there we go, we have the basic document structure. Now let's put the title for our portfolio. So I'm gonna paste it over here. So let's open this up in our web browser. I'm gonna be using Firefox. You can use whatever browser you like. So for that, I'm gonna be using Live Server. So Live Server is a VS Code extension. So Live Server, yeah, this one. So if you don't have it installed, it will show like an install button here, which you can press, and then it will add a button here. So we can press that and it will start a server. So actually I'll have like two monitors, so it's brought that up in the other one. So I'm gonna bring that over here. Yep. So now so the title is showing up here. Now the benefit of using Live Server is that as I make changes, they're gonna be automatically reflected in the browser without the need of doing reload again and again. So let's create a CSS file that is gonna contain our styles. So I'm gonna name that file style.css, and here I'm gonna use a link tag to link the HTML file, so link the CSS here so that it gets applied to the markup. So let's do an h1 here, and for the content I'm gonna type in the name And as a test to make sure that our CSS is getting applied, what I'm gonna do is add a red color to our H1. So I'm using the type selector, and then I'm saying color red, and let's head back over to the browser. So the red color is applied. So one thing that you might notice is that for some reason the syntax highlighting and CSS autocomplete and IntelliSense are not working for me. That is because because of a bug, it isn't able to pick the file types, which I've just fixed. So I'm gonna remove this. Now let's try the markup. So first off, we're gonna have a header element for the hero area. So this entire portion that is showing up above the fold, like without having to scroll, is a header. So I'm gonna use a header element for that. And inside of the header, we're gonna have a nav element, and the nav will have 4 links. So I'm gonna say a asterisk 4. Once again, I'm using Emmet. So once I type this, if I press tab, it is gonna give me 4 links. So I'm gonna leave these empty for now, like the href values. So for the first one, I'm gonna say work. So this will link to the work section. And for the second one, I'm gonna say client. So this is gonna link to the client section. And for the third one, it is gonna be about. And then finally, contact. And then I'm gonna have a div which will contain the headline and the paragraph and the only CTA that we have in the header. So I'll say h1, and I'm gonna copy the name from here. So here we go. And then paragraph, so using the p tag here. And finally, a link for the get in touch. Wrong place. Get in touch. And this is how it looks. Now let's add this background image. So for that, I'm gonna head over to the CSS, and I'm gonna say header background image, and then I'm gonna use the URL function, and I'm gonna provide the path for the image, which in our case is images, and then slash header. So header.jpg inside the images directory. So I'm gonna say images header.jpg, and here we go. So you see that there is some padding being applied inside of the body element. So as a reset, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the universal selector, and then I'm gonna say margin 0, padding 0. So this is like a reset. So every web browser out there has a user agent style sheet that has some styles predefined. Like even if you don't supply any style sheet, the browser is gonna apply some styles, and from browser to browser they vary a bit. So to make things consistent, I'm saying that select all the elements and then set their margin to 0 and their padding to 0 as well. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the box sizing to border box, and with that the margin, like the padding, is gone. now the background image is looking quite bad. The thing is, here it is only taking as much height as the contents inside of the header. So what we can do here is that we can say height 100 vh. So vh is viewport height. So this means like the 100% of the viewport height. And now if I save and go back to the browser, we got the background image stretching the entire, like covering the entire viewport. Let's use background size to make sure that it covers the entire element. And I'm gonna set the background position to, if I say, oh, I forgot this icon here, so background position center, so that its center is always displayed. Like if I were to resize the window, like its center position is always preserved. Like the browser tries its best to preserve the center of the image. Now let's select the body element. Right now the text isn't readable because we have black text on black background, so we're gonna change that to white. So I'll say color and then white. So now it's looking better. Now let's bring in the font family that we're gonna use. So I'm gonna head over to fonts.google.com, and so I'm gonna type in Just here because that is the font family that we're gonna be using. So on this page, if I scroll down, here I can select the different font weights that I want. So I want 300. I have it already selected, but I'm gonna do it again for illustration purposes. So now we have both, and oh sorry, we don't want to download it. It should give me some place to embed it. So where is the, yeah, here we go. So it is giving us some instructions on how to embed this. So I'm gonna copy this, and as it suggests, I'm gonna paste that into the header. So just above our link for importing the CSS, I'm gonna paste this in, and then inside of our CSS, as suggested here, I'm gonna set the font family. So I'll say font family, and then I'm gonna set it to Just, and as a fallback sans serif. So the fallback font family will get applied if for some reason Just doesn't load. It could be because of internet or some other thing. So now if I head back to the browser, we have the correct font family applied. Now the links are purple at the moment, but so what I'm gonna do is gonna select them and say color. I'm gonna apply white here as well, and then I'm gonna remove the text decoration. So I'm gonna say text decoration, and I'm gonna set that to none. So no underline here. So the next thing that I'm gonna do is, like, it's a common design thing that we don't have content squished at the edges. Like, it just makes it harder to read. Let's imagine if this text was here and these things were there, and like it will not only make the contents too wide, but also make it harder to read and make the text lines too longer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a container that spans like some of the portion of the viewport, and then it is centered. So to do that, I'm gonna head over to the CSS file, and I'm gonna create a class selector. I'm naming this row. People also name it container or wrapper. And then I'm gonna set the max width to 1180 pixels. And then to center it, I'm gonna say margin 0 at the top and bottom, and auto on left and right. Now I'm gonna wrap the navbar in a div with the class of row, and I'm gonna do the same for the text box. So now we have the contents in the center and not stretching the entire viewport. Now let's style our nav. So I'm gonna say target the nav, and I'm gonna set the display to flex, and I'm gonna use gap to add some space between the individual links. So let's go with 60 pixels. So we're gonna use ramps for sizing things, because RAM is better for accessibility. So we want 60 pixels. So you can, if you search for PX to RAM, you'll see this site in the search results. So I've given 60 as an input, and we get back 3.75 RAM as an output. So I'm gonna use that. So RAM. So this is how it looks. Now I'm gonna push the nav items to the end. So for that, I'm gonna use justified content flex end. So every flex container has like two axes. So one is the main axis that is in the x direction, so from left to right, and the other is the cross axis that goes from top to bottom, that lays things out from top to bottom. Like the main axis lays things out from left to right. So to align content right, like to the end, I'm using justified content. We have like align items for aligning things across the cross axis. So yeah, let's add some padding to it. So for the padding, let's go with maybe 40 pixels. So let's use 2.5 RAM. So let's move it over here. Yeah, it looks good. Now let's update our font size. So font size, we're gonna use 18 pixels as the base font size. So 18 is gonna be 1.125 RAM. So I'm gonna copy that and paste it here. So now things are looking a bit bigger. So let's move on. So let's align this to the center here. So for that, I'm gonna, I think 2.5 is too much. Let's use 2 RAM as the padding. And then, so we have got the header, and then this row and this row. So I'm gonna add a class of header text to this element that is containing the headline and the paragraph and the anchor. And I'm gonna say here header dash text. Yeah, so the way we can achieve this is we can apply like an height to the nav and then use flexbox and apply the remainder of the height to this header text. So I'm gonna call this header text container, and let's set the display on header to be flex. So once we do that, so by default the items are laid out across the main axis in the x direction from left to right. So to change that, we can use flex direction property. So column, so once I say column, it is gonna change the direction of the main axis from left to right to top to bottom. And now I'm gonna say header. Because we're using flexbox, the items are no longer stretching and instead taking the like the width of their content. So I'm gonna say select the direct children's, or we could say header dot row, and I'm gonna say width 100%. So it has made them wide. Now for the nav, I'm gonna inspect it to check what is its height. So its height is 90.5. So I'm gonna say height 90 pixels. So let's use RAM here again. So 5.625 RAM. So 5.625 RAM. And I'm gonna remove this padding since I'm used. So once I remove the padding, things are no longer gonna be aligned in the center. So I'm gonna use flexbox to do the alignment. I'm gonna say center. So now the nav links are aligned in the center. So now what we are gonna do is apply to this header text container 100% height after subtracting the nav height from it. So what we can do is header text container. I'm gonna say height. So I'm gonna use calc function. So with calc we can calculate values and sort of mix different units and value types. So I'll say 100% and minus, so the height of the nav, and once I do that and inspect, so the header text container is taking the remainder of the height. So now what we can do is use flexbox to align the things vertically inside of it. So I'm gonna set the display to flex, and I'm gonna say align items center. Yeah, it's fair. It's in the correct position now. So now let's start our heading. So for the H1, I'm gonna use a font size of 75 pixels. So this is what it is gonna be in rems. So that's one font size rem. Yep, this is looking good. And then for let's make these like the nav links a bit bigger as we have in the final version. So I'll say nav A. So this will select all the anchor elements that are children of the nav. So only the descendants of nav are gonna be selected. So I'll say font size, and I'm gonna use let's go with 22 pixels. So 22 pixels, and then so this is 1.375 RAM. So one thing that you might have noticed is that this conversion from pixel to RAM is quite tedious, and it's taking a lot of our time. So I'm gonna introduce a trick that can save us from this conversion, and that is to set the font size on the body to be 62.5%. So by default, the HTML element has a font size set to 16 pixels. So what this is gonna do, it is gonna change that to 10 pixels. Now RAM is a relative unit, so 1 RAM means that 100% of the font size on the root element. So like if we have it set to 16, so like by default, like without this, without this line, this means 18 pixels. But now after this, since we have it equal to 10 pixels, this would translate to 11.25 pixels. So now if we want the font size to be 18 pixels, we can just use 1.8 RAM without the need to do any sort of conversion. So here we wanted 60 pixels gap, so I can just say 6 RAM. And here we wanted the height to be 90 pixels, so we can say 9 RAM. And we've wanted 22 pixels font size there, so we can say 2.2 RAM. So this will save us a lot of time and the need, and we won't have to do any fancy maths and so on. So this is going to be 9 RAM, and this is going to be 7.5 RAM. Now the result is going to be similar. So, but it makes the code easier to maintain. I'm gonna close this one as well. Now let's make this bigger, so as we have it here. So I'm gonna use, like, let's apply 24 pixels font size here. So I'm gonna say dot header text container and p. So this will target the paragraph that is here. So I'm gonna remove this class for now. We might not need it. So I'm gonna say font size 2.4 RAM, and yeah, it looks good. Now let's apply some margin around it. So I'm gonna say 10 pixels or 1 RAM at the top, and 30 pixels or 3 RAM at the bottom. So yeah, it looks good. Now let's style this CTA. For that, I'm gonna add a class of btn to this link. Now the reason I'm adding this class is because I don't want to style all of the links on the page. I just want to style this button. So I'll say here dot button. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is set it's displayed to inline block. You might be wondering why not the default inline. The benefit of using inline block is that we can use things like transform, and also we can use like vertical margins, like margins in the y direction. Yeah, so inline block is just like block, but it takes as much width by default as its content size. So let's set some padding. So I'm gonna say 12 pixels for the top and bottom, and 40 pixels on the left and right. And I'm gonna set a border, so I'm gonna say 1 pixel solid, so that we can see the padding. So this is how it looks. Let's bump the font weight up. So let's try, maybe let's set the font size to 20 pixels. Maybe let's use 22. So 2.2 rank. Yeah, it looks good. Now the other thing is, so in the final version, we're using this pink reddish color. So let's use that. So to do that, what I'm gonna do is type in the root pseudo class here. So the root is the place where usually the variables are defined. So I'm gonna create a variable for it. So I'm gonna name it pink. The reason why I'm creating this variable is because I'm gonna be reusing it again and again. So I'm gonna paste its value. So here we go. And now we can say that the border is gonna be pink. So we create CSS variables by typing in 2 dashes, then the variable name, and then its value. And now we can reuse it over and over again. We're using the var function and then referencing typing out the name of the variable. Now let's do the same thing for the white. So white, and let's use the hex notation so that we can stay consistent. So I'm gonna select white and do Command D. So this will duplicate the cursors, and I'm gonna use the white variable. So the results are the same, but now we're using variables, which is a lot more maintainable. So now, yeah, so let's do some refactoring before the code, like CSS, gets out of hand. So I'm gonna type in some comment, like some stylistic comments. Like I like to do this. Like this is not necessary to type out the comments like this. I'm just gonna copy this and paste it here, and here I'll say basic setup. I'll make the P bigger. So this is the place where we're gonna have like the basic styles, and then I'm just gonna copy this and say, so this is the place where all of the styles dedicated to the header are gonna live. So yeah, it's looking quite close to what we have here. So one thing that I've noticed is that here the background is more darker and here it's lighter. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a dark overlay on top of the background image. So to do that, I'm gonna add a linear gradient on top of the background, like on top of the image. So CSS allows us to have multiple background images. So I'm gonna say linear gradient, and I'll provide RGBA as the value. So 000, this means black, and I want a very light version of the black on top, and then RGBA again, and 000, and then 0.4, because I want it to be darker at the bottom. We've messed something up. I think that's the value. So we don't need the bracket here. It's supposed to be here. And then we need a comma here. Yeah. Now it looks as we have it here. Yeah. So another thing that I'm gonna do is we're using this header height variable into, like this 9rem value in 2 places. So I'm gonna extract that in a variable. So I'll say header height, or sorry, nav height. And let's use 80 pixels or 8 rem, because I think 9 rem is more than what we need. So I'm gonna do Command D, and I'll say more nav height, and here we go. So that's it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And make sure that you subscribe and like the video and leave out a comment. So that will help other people discover this. And yeah, so I'm gonna be doing its next part, hopefully on Sunday or next week. So I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.